Good afternoon, everybody. My mic is working. My name is Sam Witten. I'm currently with the law firm of Arnold & Porter. I'll be serving as your moderator for the day. I have a couple of announcements. One of them is that this program will be recorded. We have a tape recorder on the table. And I've been instructed by the organizers that it's essential for me to say that up front for all of your sake, since we'll have an open mic later, and also so that the panelists are aware that this program will be taped. And the second, what I will be doing, I want to open with a couple of comments and then turn it over to our panelists. A lot of what I'm about to say doesn't derive from my experience in the last 9 months as a lawyer with the law firm of Arnold & Porter. I served for 22 years at the Department of State, 19 years as a lawyer in the legal advisor's office, including 6 as deputy legal advisor for the State Department. And then I spent the last 3 years until last year as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Population, Refugees, and Migration, where I was responsible for managing the U.S. Refugee Assistance Program. And you will be hearing a lot in the next hour about some very important initiatives that both the Open Society Foundations and the ABA Rule of Law initiatives are pursuing in some important parts of the world where individuals are at great risk of extensive detention, where there are procedural issues that are fundamental and are very troubling. And as I've mentioned to my fellow panelists before we started, I have a request, and this is both for the panelists and also for those of you in the room, to think about the following. And I'll just back to my own history. In 22 years at the State Department, I saw lots and lots of studies done, a lot of commentary by NGOs, by civil society around the world, by State Department officials that were handling very important issues and had some very important concerns about whether it's human rights, right to assemble, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. And I'm interested not only hearing about the initiatives that my colleagues on the panel are doing, but also the practical consequences of that. How does this translate on the ground into possible reforms? When the ABA, for example, sets up a training program or does a report on Armenia or one of these other locations, how does whether it's OSI, now renamed the Open Society Foundations, or ABA, or dozens of NGOs that you all know about, how does that translate as a very practical matter into real change? How does the rest of the world view American lawyers or American policy people that run around and do training, whether it's judicial training, law enforcement, reforms? Are we viewed, are we welcomed? Are we resented as gringos, if you will, people who really are not a part of their system and who believe that we, because our system has certain freedoms, that we're entitled to go tell them what to do? And if we're not welcomed or if we're not effective, what can we do to be more effective? Because there are so many great possibilities for U.S. and other persons from advanced democratic societies that have substantial rule of law protections to educate, to work with, to collaborate. But over time, I haven't become cynical, but I've become aware that some of these great intentions could just end with a report or just end with a speech. So I think for this group and for the panel, I'd like to challenge a bit on that, about the practical consequences of what we're talking about. Are we doing enough to make it reality? Should we be doing more? Is this about right? I don't come to this prejudging because I'm not familiar with some of the most recent developments we're going to be hearing about. So I'm as much a listener as the rest of you. But I do come to this with some background from many years of looking and working with and frankly helping fund programs around the world that are related to the kinds of programs that we'll be hearing today. So that ends my setup, my introduction, and I'll turn it over. And I think Jesse Tannenbaum, are you the first speaker? Thank you.